What's up, everybody? Brett here. We're back in Total War Warhammer 2. Going to be doing a little hot replay action. Today's battle is going to be taking place on the Battle of the Cairns map. We're going to be rocking Bretonnia, King Lewin Leoncoeur, and it's a 4v4 small funds. So, just going to point this out to you guys. The most powerful race in 4v4s or 3v3s or small funds is 100% the Greenskins. And if I wanted to win, this is the race that I would take. But when we got into the chat for the army selections, I was like, hey everybody, take something fun. They started going mass greenskins, and I was like, you know what, I'm feeling it. Let's try and take on the WAGH. And the WAGH is exactly what you take on when you fight 4 greenskin armies all at once, because they basically have a never-ending rotation of the WAGH. So this is going to be such a crazy battle. I'm not going to try and break down all the armies. Needless to say, all greenskins, chariots, wolf riders, you've got Orkboar Biggins, you've got the Crimson Killers here in the center, hanging out with some spooky ghosts, and Grimgore Ironhide himself. You've got some Night Goblin war bosses keeping it cheap, some Squig Hoppers, excellent choice. We've got Wurzag, the man himself, the Great Green Prophet, riding Spleen Ripper. Several Savage Orcs, keeping it pretty thematic with him, because of course he does lead a Savage Orc heavy faction. And then another Night Goblin war boss here. Lots of Gobos to bring the numbers, and then lots of ranged units to bring the pain. So on our side of the battlefield, and even some Vanguard deployed Wolf Riders here, not a bad choice. On our side here, we have the Empire, who decided to bring a bit of a front line. Some crossbowmen here in the front, perhaps not the best idea. A steam tank, which, you know, I don't care what you say. This is like my favorite unit in the game. Let's go ahead and take a look at its stats. Check that out. It's basically a mobile artillery piece that terror routs enemies and gets into melee and crushes people. So you can't hate on it. He decided to take a General of the Empire up on a Pegasus, which is an interesting choice. And we have lots of Chaos units. One is going to be rocking this Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Death on a Barded War Steed, using him as a bit of a cavalry general with the Swords of Chaos, the Regiment of Renown, possibly the coolest cavalry unit in the game. They used to be overpowered, now they're underpowered. Kind of sucks for them. They really need just something. I don't know exactly what they need, but it just maybe higher HP pool, something to keep them alive longer, but they are such a sweet unit. They just cost a bit too much. And some Chaos Knights with lances, as well as some Marauder Horsemen here with a couple chevrons. The other Chaos player decided to go ahead and take Chaos Warriors with great weapons, halberds, pretty heavy metal, pretty diverse. Another Chaos Sorcerer with the Lore of Death. So if they just went Spirit Leech on them, which it looks like they kind of did, they'll be able to nuke down Lords, but they won't be very good at dealing with the sheer numbers that we're about to face. And then of course we have, if I can just zoom around, there we go, Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, wearing his assless chaps, no big deal, and his unique mirror shield. The thing about Sigvald that's great in small funds is that he does have regen, and it makes it much less likely with small funds that there's going to be something on the field that can take him down. He'll be able to regen through it, and the Footlords do very well in these types of engagements. So Marauders moving out to the front to kind of screen for us, and then I, over here in the forest, have deployed with the glorious Knights of the Lion-Hearted. They're going to be our anti-large component. They cause fear first off. They also have excellent magic resistance of 12%. And they also have, I thought they had perfect vigor. That might not be a thing. I could have sworn these guys had perfect vigor. They're essentially Grail Knights, but they are anti-large. We also took the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, which are the Regiment of Renown for the Knight Errants, and these are certainly anti-infantry. They have Frenzy, which is something unique to them, and just very good leadership on those two units. We're rocking a Paladin here on a Warhorse, going to be also anti-large, so we're going to pair him with the Knights of the Lion-Hearted for a nice anti-large contingent. We have the Damsel with the Lore of Life to provide us with some healing, and generally proc Life Bloom for our entire army, give them a little bit of passive healing. And then this was a mistake. So I was cutting gold, and sometimes there's a bug that happens where you go to select mounts and it shows it as the mount's registered, or it shows that the mount isn't registered but you still spent the gold. It's a very weird bug that's been in there for a while, honestly, in the game. Normally you can kind of deselect your entire army and get it to fix itself, but I wasn't able to do it, so it looked like I had a mount selected, and I didn't. So when I got into the game, I was just kind of laughing to myself, because this is the most unchivalrous King Lewin Lancor you will ever see. But he does have several of his abilities which are going to come in handy in the late game. The Lady's Champion, he does have regen. Blessing of the Lady for plus 20% physical resistance, which is amazing. Yeah, basically super powerful, and he's going to have that as long as I think he only has this until his leadership is broken, and he's pretty hard to break, especially with Stand Your Ground plus the Sword of Corone, which is going to debuff enemies in an AoE around me. So King Lewin only has 34 speed, so he's not able to keep up with my cavalry, but I mean, in the lore, right, he's a Grail Knight. He's basically a superhuman. He should be able to run pretty fast on foot. And if you look at how big he is compared to like these horses, I mean, the man is a giant. So let's go ahead. Let's get in it. Very good play here from our opponents, I will say. They instantly formed up. They used all of their skirmishers to harass our front line. We do not have the skirmishing to counter this. And one of the players here, the one rocking, just the green player, so the one with this Night Goblin Warboss, is going ahead and forming a bit of a flank denial with 4 units of straight up goblins. No chevrons, no nothing. The WAGH pops right as the front lines engage, and we can take a look at this. The Swords of Corone charging in against these biggins. Honestly, this is a great fight for the biggins, but they will get crushed. There's just too much DPS in one spot. Fate Abuna going down on the Savage Orc Boar Boys. It's going to be draining them of their HP. Lots of firepower going back and forth. The Marauders getting stuck in there against the Savage Orcs. The Savage Orcs will win that, especially with the WAGH popped. And there will never be a moment in this game, unfortunately for us, where the WAGH is just like not going off and just absolutely crushing us. So these halberds being kept in reserve, perhaps a mistake. The steam tank is fine being kept in reserve because remember, it is an artillery piece. And the crossbowmen should be able to get lots of damage done against a lot of these unarmored targets that they do have. We're going to take a charge. We don't care about goblins. How dare they? They have no charge defense. We're going to get in there. We're going to crush them, do some damage. And right now we're just trying to get up and around. We want to get into the back line. We're trying to help our allies by shutting down all of this ranged firepower. But they just have so many tools to stop us. Some more Goblin Wolf Riders out on the flanks here, trying to pick us apart. We do have shields and we are heavily armored, so they're not the biggest deal. Grimgor getting in here. Is this Grimgor? No, this is the Goblin Warboss, but the steam tank is just rolling over people, taking point-blank shots. Absolutely brutal into the side of the Savage Orcs. Sigvold really wants to get stuck in. He's over here crushing Savage Orcs. Pretty good use of his time. Meanwhile, unfortunately, the backline is very undefended. Grimgor, here he is. Big, beautiful man himself. Orc, I should say. Charging at these crossbowmen. They're going to nope the hell out of there. Another WAGH going off. Giving absolutely huge melee attack stats to all of these units. The Swords of Chaos and the Chaos Knights with lances, had they kind of stuck with me or tried to do another bit of a flank here, instead of just going to man fight in melee, we could have blobbed together, made a really devastating cavalry group, and I could have kept us all alive with my heals. But unfortunately, we were not that coordinated this game. And I'm going to be using Stand Your Ground to give us a bit of an advantage here, melee defense. I've been using my healing to keep up my guys. And we've been countercharged by the Night Goblin Squighoppers, who normally aren't a big deal, but with WAGH pop, they did quite a bit of damage to our Knights of the Lionhearted. But using the Sword of Corone, lowering their stats, we were able to chew through them quite nicely. And I'm using my Paladin to try and hunt down this Night Goblin Warboss because he does have a bonus versus large. And you'll see here this fight for the ages. Night Goblin on a giant squig fighting a Paladin of Bretonnia, who's actually, with that anti-large bonus, he didn't used to have that not that long ago. But he should be able to win this fight. Granted, it's a hero versus a lord, but he does have a bit of a distinct advantage. The Night Goblin Warboss is anti-infantry. He gets no bonuses there. King Lewin just wants to be in the fight, regenning, soaking damage. Look how mighty he is compared to these tiny goblins. Knights of the Lionhearted, not fighting the targets we want them to fight. I keep having to pull them off and bring them back in. Even Wurzag is getting into the melee here, The steam tank holding everyone back. It is, of course, unbreakable. I think the General of the Empire was trying to snipe out WAGH. That might have been a decent play, but Stand Your Ground's going to go off, providing him some decent melee defense, which is going to prevent him from being sniped. Another WAGH. Surprise, surprise. Infinite WAGHs going down. Our cavalry is routing off, but should be returning shortly. We're able to keep several of our units fighting just through sheer leadership and lots of healing from the damsel with the lore of life. So while the goblins don't have charge defense, they are little spear buggers, so they can do some pretty decent damage versus our cavalry. King Lewin is just going to act as a blender into the late game. They really even haven't hurt him yet. His leadership is dipping, but it's not gone, so he hasn't lost his 20% bonus. The Chaos Sorcerer, the Lord of Death, is going to be routing. Probably hasn't cast all of his spells. There's so many assets on the battlefield for the Orc players that anything that routes, they can just pull off some of these cheap skirmisher cav and just get them to chase them off. So I mean, even 20 Chaos Knights with lances into the late game, 13 Swords of Chaos, if we could rally them, they could end up doing some damage if we were able to group them with our knights and our leadership back here, because their leadership is basically gone. Prince Sigvold with his regen, this is where he wants to be. Also standing next to the General of the Empire, kind of helping each other out, as well as the Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Death. So they're kind of all just somewhat buffing each other's leadership just by their sheer presence. And the steam tank, of course, is going to occasionally route things, but another WAGH, just causing everything on their side of the battlefield to hit super hard. They tried to rally here, but unfortunately they're going to run into the Warlord's boys, Regiment of Renowned Knight Goblins, who will hold them back long enough for the Skirmisher Cav to do a heck of a lot of damage. Smoke bombs going off here from the Nasty Skulkers. Going to be basically tying me to this fight. It'll be very difficult for me to retreat with a reduced speed. We're managing to rally, break, but I mean, we're doing so much damage with our knights. How many do we have here? Is that only one left? No, 9 left. We have 9 of them left, and they will rally, and they will return to us. I'm not sure where my Knights Errant went, but they may be done for this battle. And he's giving us another opportunity to try and kill this Night Goblin War Boss, but he's very elusive. He's going to be able to slip out of the formation. The damsel has broken, but I'm counting on her rallying. It's pretty much up to King Lewin Lincor here, the Lion-Hearted himself, to try and beast mode through that fight. Yes, the Knights of the Lion-Hearted getting a nice charge here into the Night Goblin Archers. Yes, these dudes are nearly dead, but Night Goblin Archers do not have the melee stats to man fight these units at all. My Paladin is hunting down the War Boss, may just get him, but it's kind of too little too late. My Damsel with the Lore of Life does return, should be able to get some kind of heal, and we're just going to pop it. We're going to use it on our remaining Knights and King Lewin to try and keep him in the fight as long as possible, perhaps swing his leadership back into our favor. And here, yeah, just a complete and utter rout. Sigvold did his best, 101 kills. He has decent HP and he's still regening, but he got overwhelmed. I mean, there are Crimson Killers plus Grimgor Ironhide, and you can take some rear charges from WAGH, and not much in the game can stand up to that. The Damsel, I was using her to chase off some of these archers, get a few kills herself. I mean, 46 kills on a Damsel without any offensive spells. That just tells you what she was fighting. Our Paladin here, carving his way through some of these archers. Once again, not a very fair fight. Yeah, with every swing of his blessed sword, he slays some of them. And we managed to get another Earthblood from downtown. And that's going to keep King Lewin here fighting for a little bit. His leadership is not broken. It's down to 5. So he still has his 20% physical resistance. And there's really just nothing in this fight right now that can handle him. He's wavering, but he's not quite broken. 109 kills on him. Big hit there from the king. And he's going down like a hero of Bretonia, that's for sure. Just look at the overwhelming forces that still remain. Stand your ground being popped, giving him even more melee defense. Even more leadership, making it less likely for him to rout. And with that regen, that physical resistance, he is just an absolute beast. The Paladin and the Damsel kind of fighting together, trying to keep their leadership intact, but it's not going to last, and that's going to be the fight. The WAGH is merciless. Quadruple WAGH is just something that I don't know how you fight in these types of engagements. It was still very fun to play against. You'll see here we got some pretty big kills on all of our units. I just wish we had been able to work together with our allies more. There's something to be said for the idea of leaving our cavalry in reserve behind our front lines and then just using our forces to charge straight into the front lines and use them almost as infantry. But honestly, if I was going to do that, I probably would have taken much cheaper cav and perhaps even taken some infantry to help supplement our other forces. But I thought we had enough to hold a decent line. I mean, Chaos here had some. That obviously was just some extremely expensive cavalry choices there. And you'll notice the Chaos Knights with lances more than double the kills of the Swords of Chaos, which cost even more than they do. And yeah, Steam Tank paid for itself, I would say, with just a bit better of support units. Maybe take the Journal of the Empire off the Pegasus, leave him on foot, and you could probably, with just taking the Pegasus mount, you could probably even get another Spearman with shields. Just give your Steam Tank more room to fire and generate the value because it's such an expensive unit. Yeah, check this out. Undoubtedly from catching those crossbowmen or just chasing down some routing units. Wurzag, the Savage Orcs, did very well. Nice targeting there from one of our Chaos allies, using the Fate of Buna to recognize that the Savage Orc Boar Boys were a threat, and then of course using the Fate of Buna to take it out. So good looking out there. The ranged units gave them so much DPS that they otherwise might not have had this game, and I wasn't quite able to get in and amongst them fast enough. Very good play from Hector using the little cheap goblins to screen me out. They just had so many numbers, and of course I love this. Grimgore went super thematic. I kind of wish the rest of them had gone a little more thematic. This is definitely a fun build. These are just like what I would pick if I was trying to win. Lots of little Goblin Regiment of Renowns. These three units here are like an auto-include if you're trying to win. Honestly, they're that good. Skarsnik would have been cool to see on the battlefield too. But anyway, guys, once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming. I love bringing you guys Total War Warhammer 2 content, and I'll be around for a long time. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, or consider doing it. I appreciate every single subscription that I get. Leave me a comment. Let me know who you are, and perhaps in the future we could play some games together that get featured on the channel. I would absolutely love that. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.